So the time right now is 9:46 AM and I can't go to sleep until I beat Football Manager Mobile. To beat the game, I need to win the Champions League, which sounds pretty simple, right? But I've got to start my career at the bottom and work my way up the divisions to a top job to win the Champions League. So I'm choosing Boston United, my closest non-league football club, to start at. So let's see what I inherit as the Boston boss. Well, the positives are we have good training and average youth facilities, but we're currently spending £575 over our wage budget. We barely have any staff members. The best player we actually own is a 37-year-old Martin Woods, and the best player in the squad, Deju Satana, is only in on loan from Doncaster. So you know, there is a bit of work to be done here. So I started by trying to hire some more staff members, only for the board to block all my attempts to hire people. So as we can't scout anyone, I think we're going to have to head into the season as we are. I'm setting us up to counter-attack in a 4-3-3, as we are expected to finish in the bottom half of the National League North. Our first game of the season is away at Buxton. Hopefully they've brought their own water bottles. The home side had the better of the chances early in the game, and even had a disallowed goal in the 28th minute for offside. But just before the break, they did score a legal goal to take the league. So I thought I'd throw the water bottle at half time, and it didn't really work. Although we did seem to have a few more chances in the second half, we didn't have enough in us to score, losing our season opener 1-0. Hopefully the rest of the video isn't like this, and I can actually go to sleep at some point soon. So when we took on South Shields in our second game, we needed to win. And just 4 minutes into the game, we opened up the scoring with a lovely passing move. But a terrible free kick from our keeper gifted the ball back to the visitors, who capitalised on the error and equalised. Then moments later, they took the lead thanks to another defensive error. But we regained our focus and got back on level terms minutes later. And then in the 73rd minute, we cleared a South Shields corner, raced up the other end of the pitch, and took the lead again, and all 3 points as we won the match. However, I am acutely aware it's taken me 45 minutes to play just 2 matches. So if I want any hope of getting some sleep soon, we need to speed things up. So I'll be going on holiday every now and again to try and get through things quicker. Whilst I enjoy my time in the Bahamas, you can actually get Football Manager Mobile for free if you've got a Netflix account. Log on to the Netflix app on your phone, go to the Games tab, and you can get the game from there for free. You're welcome. You can thank me by subscribing to the channel and liking the video. Over the next 2 months, we played some great football, winning a majority of our matches. And after 11 games, we sat on top of the table, an incredible achievement. Left winger Michael Gyasi is our top scorer right now with 5 goals, but we have a range of players contributing. So if we can keep this up and earn promotion, next season we might be able to move on to a better job. But next up we have a Lincolnshire derby, as we're taking on struggling Scunthorpe United. Right on the 10-minute mark, we opened up the scoring, having initially hit the crossbar. 5 minutes later and Jimmy Knowles doubled our lead against the Iron, before he made it 3-0 8 minutes later, following a lovely ball over the top from Michael Bostwick. But Scunthorpe did pull a goal back 70 minutes into the game. Was the comeback on? Well, I did panic when the replay came up, thinking they scored a second goal, but they hadn't. We saw the game out and beat our rivals 3-1 to stay on top of the table. So all in all, I think it's been a pretty good first hour. After the Scunthorpe game, we went on an incredible winning run, picking up a bunch of points and progressing in the FA Trophy. This gives us a mammoth 7-point lead on New Year's Day, where we have another local derby with Kings Lynn Town. But disaster struck early on as we gave away a penalty. But keeper Cameron Gregory made an incredible double save to keep the scores level. Then 35 minutes in, we worked the ball down the left, put in a cross, and Hazel finished to give us the lead. But moments later, Kings Lynn Town eventually got the ball into the back of the net, apparently a Bostwick own goal. Then late in the second half, the visitors took the lead through a superb free kick. 10 minutes from time, we hit the crossbar as we desperately tried to get a point out of the game, but it just wasn't to be. Hopefully this defeat is just a blip and we can get back to winning ways soon. But we did suffer another defeat, this time to Scunthorpe United. But after that, we seem to regain some form and keep a 7-point gap to Spennymoor Town, but they do have a game in hand on us. If we end up getting promoted, there's a good chance we're going to come straight back down. And the fact that we can't afford any scouts to look for new players has me even more worried. But promotion is looking more and more likely as we just keep winning in the league. We're guaranteed a playoff spot, but as we're 10 points clear with 5 games to go, it's the title we want. If we beat Peterborough Sports and Chester lose, we could win the title in our next game. And 10 minutes in, we got the goal we needed to give us the lead, before we doubled it minutes later. However, Chester also happens to be winning 2-0, so maybe we aren't getting the title this match. And when Peterborough Sports scored in the second half, I started to worry if we could even win this game. They came close again, hitting the post with 25 minutes to go, but we did manage to regain our 2-goal lead 15 minutes from time thanks to Kelsey Mooney. And something else incredible happened. Buxton had scored 3 goals to take the lead over Chester. So as things stand, we are winning the league title. But 9 minutes from time, Peterborough Sports struck again. Luckily for us, Buxton were now 5-2 up, so we just need to make sure we didn't concede another goal. But in the 90th minute, Peterborough had a free kick, which the wall blocks and was sent wide. Then we had a free kick of our own, which we managed to score to give us the victory and the National League North title in our first season. Now, we're almost 2 hours into this video and we've only just finished our first season. If I want to sleep soon, we need to win the Champions League, and that just isn't going to happen with Boston. So I looked to see what jobs were available, and we can apply to Portsmouth, who are pretty much guaranteed a League One playoff spot. So it would be rude not to apply. Now, I haven't played Football Manager Mobile before, so I assumed it was like the PC version where you apply for a job and then they give you an interview to see if you're the right fit for the club. But it turns out that is not the case, as Pompey have straight up offered me the job, which obviously we accepted. And with 3 games left to go, they're now in an automatic promotion spot. So for the final 3 games, I'm keeping our familiar 4-3-3 shape, but we're going to try and control the possession throughout the game. Looks like they signed Macaulay Langstaff from Notts County, and he notched up 22 goals so far this season. But we are away to Bolton for the first game, and they're top of the table, so this will be tough. It was a pretty drab first half, as neither side looked like scoring. The closest we came was from a free kick in the 63rd minute, that went just wide. So I decided to make a few subs and bring on Colby Bishop, who made an instant impact and gave us the lead late on. But we couldn't hold on, committing too many men forward for a corner, which let Bolton have a clear one-on-one opportunity and score. So we ended in a 1-1 draw that sees us drop back down to 3rd place behind Derby County. Our penultimate game of the season is at home against Wigan, where 2 minutes into the match, Joe Morrell was injured and forced off the pitch, which did affect us, as once again we overcommitted from a corner and it allowed Wigan to have a one-on-one opportunity to score a goal. Even worse for us, Derby County are winning and we just couldn't score. We lost 1-0, which means we'll have to take part in the playoffs. But a loss to Lincoln City on the final day of the season, which as a Lincoln City fan I was kind of happy about in a way, means we drop down to 4th in the table and we have to play Port Vale in the playoffs. The semi-final first leg is away from home, and somehow Port Vale didn't score early on from a set-piece routine. Langstaff had a chance 20 minutes in when we cleared a corner up to him, but the keeper denied us the goal. But moments later, he did score, as a corner was recycled back to him and he buried his efforts. Not much happened for the next hour or so, until Reagan Poole brought down Alex Mighton on the edge of the area. Thankfully, the decision was for a free kick and not a penalty, so he came away from the first leg as 1-0 winners. With the second leg at home, we were feeling pretty confident. There was only one real chance in the first half, but luckily Port Vale put the ball wide of the mark. We started to get worried when Paddy Lane went off injured, but we shouldn't have been, as moments later, Sadie scored, incredibly, his first goal of the season to give us a 2-0 aggregate lead. Port Vale came close towards the end of the game, but we held strong and reached the playoff finals, where we're now going to fight for promotion against Bristol Rovers. But as I only realised 20 minutes into the game when I celebrated a Bristol Rovers goal, It turned out we're actually playing in white for this game, and we had the worst possible start. Nothing much happened for the rest of the half, which means we go into the break behind. But no matter what we tried, we just couldn't get ourselves back into the game. Rovers were the better team on the day, won the match, and got promoted. I just can't believe we didn't get promoted. I'm devastated. Yeah. Sorry, what? I'm just busy playing FM Mobile, mate. I am literally paying you to listen to me. I know, but what's the best tactic to use again? 4-2-3-1 gegenpress. You are a lifesaver, my man. I'll be honest, I don't really think this is working out how I'd hoped. Come on! Sorry, I just scored. Look, you should try out the partner of this video, BetterHelp. It's really easy to get started in just 3 steps. When you sign up, you answer a questionnaire to match you with a specialist who has years of experience helping people just like you. Then you're connected with a professional and fully accredited therapist, and you simply schedule sessions when you need them, either over the phone, video, or a simple chat box, which can be really handy when you're getting started if you're feeling nervous. But what I found really useful is the fact I can just do it here at home. I don't have to go anywhere special, which can make therapy feel quite daunting. Since we last spoke about BetterHelp, my therapist has given me some work to do about being more present. As quite literally the title of this video suggests, I can spend an awful lot of time making videos and push other commitments to the side. So I'm trying to work a bit less and put more time into being more present with my friends and girlfriend. Therapy isn't all about past traumas, it's been really helping me become more introspective and aware of myself. So if you want to experience the benefits that I felt with BetterHelp, you can sign up with my link in the description to enjoy a discount on your first month. So it's taken us just over 3 hours to complete one season. I was really hoping we'd finish this within 24 hours, but at the current rate, I'm not sure we're going to. But I guess we are now in League One, and we started off in the National League North, so that is pretty good progress. If you ignore the playoff final, I suppose. Annoyingly, only Ryan Schofield has a contract expiring, which means we're stuck with the same players next season. Which actually is kind of good because we know this team is promotion capable. My coach tells me Regan Poole is the best player in the team and Zach Swanson isn't far behind him. We also have top strikers in Macaulay Langstaff and Colby Bishop. But we do need to sell some players to bring in some more quality. So I decided to use the loan market, which looks like it might be a lot easier to use than in the PC version. Because Yarma League joins us from Brentford and Gift Orban arrives from Lyon. They both go straight into our starting lineup as we switch to a more attacking 4-2-3-1 this season. So we got kicked off away at Blackpool. And unfortunately, the Tangerines took the lead 18 minutes in. Even worse, Gift Orban went off injured 3 minutes later. But whatever we did, we just couldn't score goals. And Blackpool could, as they doubled their lead at the start of the second half. But Langstaff was able to pull back a goal with 15 minutes to go to give us a lifeline. It was just too little too late. We lose on the opening day of the season. Luckily, Orban will only be out for 3 weeks. We also lost 2 games away at Charlton in the league and cup, but eventually we did start to win games, which leaves us 6th in the table around a quarter of the way into the season. So we are on the right track. I'm really hoping we see big improvements when we play Preston North End. And sure enough, 24 minutes in, our wonder kid Gift Orban gave us the lead. We had a few close chances early in the second half, but had to work hard defensively to keep our lead as Preston pushed on. But it was substitute Macaulay Langstaff who sealed the victory with our second of the game. Or so we thought. A defensive error gifted Preston a goal with 5 minutes to play, but luckily for us that was just our only slip-up. We won the game 2-1. Despite Orban being our big summer loan signing, it was actually Langstaff who was majorly outscoring the Nigerian. But after that, we fell into some pretty horrible form, winning just 2 of our next 10, which saw us tumble down to 12th in the table. So we need to beat Lincoln City to get our season back on track. But it was clear from the off that Lincoln are probably the best team we're ever going to come up against. So I was astonished when we took the lead through Paddy Lane. Langstaff almost made it 15 minutes in, but Lincoln's elite defence stopped us. But somehow, against the odds, Tom Lowry made it 2-0 36 minutes into the game. But sure enough, Lincoln's goal did come. as it should do when their attack is as good as it is. But against the odds, we somehow scored a third goal from a free kick, which was lucky as Lincoln scored a second through Jack Moylan with 5 minutes to go. But we came out of the game with a famous 3-2 victory that is way more impressive than any Champions League final that we could win. Our form improved after the Lincoln game, meaning we climb up to 11th in the table and sit 5 points behind the playoff spots. But I'm starting to think this might not be the right place for us. Perhaps we need to apply for the Stoke job in the Premier League, even if it means we're going to get relegated to the Championship straight away. In the meantime, we're taking on Grimsby Town, possibly the worst team we're going to face in this video across any league. And less than 180 seconds into the game, we took the lead. And just before the half-hour mark, we scored our second of the afternoon from distance. We then scored a third early into the second half, and added a fourth goal with what ended up being the very last kick of the game. I think I've proved myself good enough to be the Stoke manager, especially as the media are now labelling me as the entertainer. I will bring some terrific football to the people of Stoke, or not, as Stoke hire Steven Gerrard instead. So now we are under pressure to get Portsmouth into the playoffs so we can keep progressing. Fortunately for us, we kept winning games, only dropping 10 points from the next available 33, which pushes us back up into the playoffs with 7 games to go this season. A loss to Plymouth was the only major blip on our record, which means we need to get a result against Oxford on the final day of the season to secure a playoff spot. But it was Oxford who took the lead 25 minutes into the game, denting our hopes. Fortunately, just before half time, we pulled level, although I almost missed it as I was trying to find out the Preston score. Currently they are drawing, which is what we need. If they win, we need to draw a minimum to secure 6th place. Both teams had their chances in the second half, but no one could break the deadlock. But that was okay as Blackpool took the lead over Preston, and shortly after, we thought we'd taken the lead, but Langstaff's goal was ruled offside. So we ended the game in a 1-1 draw, which means we have secured a playoff spot and are taking on Barnsley. We're at home for the first leg, so we need to take advantage of the home crowd. But we had a disastrous start as we gave up a penalty, which Barnsley scored. So early in the second half, we made 4 subs at once to try and get something out of the game. Orban had the best chance of the match for us, but with 8 minutes to go, he couldn't turn it into the back of the net. But in the 90th minute, he finally got the goal we needed, until it was ruled out for offside. We lose the first leg 1-0, and the second leg away would be really tough, as the home side almost scored less than 60 seconds into the game. But our hearts broke 25 minutes in, as Barnsley doubled their aggregate leads. But before half time, we were awarded a penalty, only for Gift Orban to hit the post. But moments later, we did get the goal we needed from a super set-piece routine, and we just need one more to go to extra time. We put our bodies on the line at both ends of the pitch, and we got our reward. Orban beat the Barnsley keeper in a foot race to make it 2-2 on aggregate. And then we took the lead through an amazing free kick with 15 minutes to go. And to take all the pressure off us, we managed to get a fourth from a recycle corner in the 90th minute. We win 4-2 on aggregate, and we're heading to the playoff final for a second season in a row. This time we're going to have to take on Huddersfield. But it was a cagey affair with not a lot of great chances for either side. Our best chance of the half came 33 minutes in, when the keeper made a great save from a headed effort. But just before the break, we broke the deadlock as Yarmoliuk reacted quickest to fire us in front. And in the second half, Gift Orban got past the defender, sprinted at the goal, and gave us our second, which was important as Huddersfield scored immediately afterwards to pile the pressure back on. And then when we thought it was all over, Huddersfield put the ball in the back of the net again. But luckily for us, it was deemed to be offside, but the next time it hit the back of the net, it wasn't offside, which means we're going to extra time. The first half went by without a single highlight, and in the 119th minute, we had a corner, that we wasted. Which means we're going to penalties. Up first for us is Anthony Scully, who missed. And Huddersfield scored there first. Tom McIntyre got us off the mark, but Huddersfield took the lead. Colby Bishop did his job, and then so did our keeper to keep the scores level. Yarmoliuk gave us the lead, whilst Duncan hit the post. So if Paddy Lane scores, we win, but he blasted it over. But so did Huddersfield. In the luckiest possible way, we win the final and get promoted to the Championship after sneaking into the playoffs so late in the season. So for the Championship, I'm telling the board we can steer clear of relegation, and they'll give me 15 million to spend. But once again, I'm going to rely on the loan market, as we seem to be able to sign players who are too good for the Championship. We signed the likes of Wilfred Gnonto, Charlie Patino and Lewis Miley on loan for the season, who should all be in the Premier League. Patino in particular looks like he'll be a real threat from the midfield. Our best permanent signing was keeper Mateusz Lis for £4 million from Southampton to keep clean sheets. But I think I spent too long looking for players to sign, as we're now over 6.5 hours into the video and we're nowhere near the Champions League. Our first game of the season was against Watford, a tricky challenge, but luckily we were awarded a penalty early on, which we didn't score. However, Charlie Patino soon found Colby Bishop, who managed to score our first Championship goal. New keeper Liss came to the rescue early in the second half to keep us in the lead, but Watford played dirty, injuring not one, but two of our players midway through the second half. We almost doubled our lead right at the end of the game, but we couldn't get a good shot away. But luckily, we do win our first Championship game 1-0. And incredibly, we carried on playing really well. The only result I'm disappointed with is a loss to Bolton. So after 10 games, we sit 9th in the table. However, it turns out Carlos Borges' loan was only for 3 months, and he's gone back to Ajax, and we're also going to miss Patino through injury for a couple of weeks, and top scorer Gnonto can't play our next match against his parent club, Leeds United. But it seemed that we had the better of the chances across the first half, putting Leeds under pressure. But without Gnonto, we couldn't score, and Leeds have the extra quality they need to make a difference, as Rutter got a goal moments before half-time. But just over an hour into the game, we got ourselves back on level terms, following a well-worked ball through the middle. And so the game ended 1-1, which was a superb result away from Leeds with a weakened team. Surely we can't be making a playoff push this season. We carried on with some really good results as we approached the new year, slowly but surely building some important momentum, pushing us up to 7th in the table and only outside the playoff positions on goal difference. Most of the players that we own are probably only League One level, but the loan players are all Premier League capable, and they are carrying our team right now. But I am starting to look for jobs in the Premier League, and Birmingham City is available, but they are rock bottom of the table. West Ham in 13th are managed by Graham Potter, and his job is insecure, so we're going to keep our eyes focused on what happens there. To help with our playoff push, we made another outrageous loan signing in Ben Doak from Liverpool. Genuinely, if we don't get the playoffs with this outrageous attack for the Championship, I will be in shock. We took on Cardiff away for Ben Doak's debut, and we almost opened up the scoring from his free kick. Patino then saved the shot on the line to keep the scores level. Doak then should have scored, but I think the nerves got the better of him on his debut, which then allowed Cardiff to come forward and take the lead of the game. But minutes into the second half, Doak showed his quality, getting past multiple players and assisting Colby Bishop to level the scores. Then 20 minutes from time, Callum Lang broke forward from the left and scored a spectacular goal to put us in front and take a 2-1 victory back to Portsmouth with us. And crucially, it moved us into the playoff positions. We had a great run of results after the Cardiff game, keeping our playoff hopes alive. However, the top 5 look too far away, so we are fighting for 6th place against Everton. But I am still keeping an eye on the West Ham job, as Potter is somehow holding on to it. But surely losses to Arsenal and Chelsea would mean he gets the sack. So imagine how annoyed I was when they beat Arsenal 4-1. But interestingly, the Arsenal job is now available. I don't think I'm going to get it, but I may as well apply. And very quickly was rejected in favour of Arne Slot. But that means the Newcastle job is available, and they hired Kieran McKenna instead, which leaves a job open at Crystal Palace, which I applied for, but they went for Eddie Howe instead. In the meantime, we'd lost 3 of our next 4 games, which means we dropped 6 points behind Everton in the table. I feel like this is our moment to make a move to the Premier League because we were on such a good run with Portsmouth. We've also been so lucky with loan players, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this again with them next season. So whilst our stock is high, we have to move to a better club. But we might have to aim a little bit lower than the Premier League. So maybe we go for Brentford in the Championship instead. It's not the Premier League, but they're going to have a way bigger budget than Portsmouth and way better players. Plus, we're level on points with them in the league, and with 6 games to go, playoffs are unlikely for both teams. But we could mount a title challenge with Brentford next season, and eventually, they did offer us the job. So although Brentford have fallen behind us in the league, neither side are going to make the playoffs. So I think moving clubs now is what we have to do. So I'm now the Brentford manager. And I was right. The players that the club own are way better than the ones that Portsmouth own. But Pompey's loan players are obviously a lot better. But if we can have a strong transfer window over the summer, we are going to be surely title candidates. We're going to use the same formation that was so successful at Portsmouth, which I think enhances our chances. Although the team weren't particularly keen on the tactic, as we didn't win a game at the end of the season and finished 14th in the table, 7 points behind Portsmouth. Now, I was excited to be reunited with Yarmoliuk, but when Burnley bid £20 million for him, we had to let him go. And the board are now giving us £37 million to spend this summer, which is way more than Portsmouth would have given us. We spent 24 on 2 players and brought in 3 more stars on loan who again should not be at this level. Andre Santos in particular will boss the centre midfield, whilst Jacob Napoleon Romsas will be our creative outlets. So we need to lay down a marker in our season opener against Blackburn. But worryingly, it was Blackburn who had the better of the early chances, and they eventually scored 20 minutes into the game. But thanks to a Blackburn defensive error, we very quickly got back on level terms. Wiese came close as we grew into the game, but we couldn't take the lead before half time. And it was Blackburn who did take the lead in the second half, much to our annoyance. So we made 4 changes with 25 minutes to go, which helped Blackburn score a 3rd goal and give them victory on the opening day of the season. Not really ideal that. But our next game is against Portsmouth, who are now without all of their lone stars. 2 minutes in and we had a great chance, but hit the post. 5 minutes later, Pompey's keeper kept the scores level. But 12 minutes in and we broke the deadlock with a nice cross. We got our second after we put a cleared corner back into the mixer for Romsas to score his first goal for the club. And then we made it 3-0 in the 69th minute after some lovely passing and movement. A 3-0 victory against our former club really makes me think we've made the right move by joining Brentford. After the Portsmouth game, we just carried on winning, only slipping up to West Ham in the Cup and narrowly being defeated at Sunderland. But the good news is we are 5 points clear at the top of the table. Form slowed down a little bit as we approached the halfway point of the season, but we extended our lead to 6 points over Ipswich, who we play next. A win here today cements our title aspirations. But it was the Tractor Boys who were having the better of the chances early on. That was until Kevin Alvarez found Lewis Miley in the middle to give us the lead. But not long after, Ipswich scored a spectacular goal to level the scores at half time, and neither side could find a way through in the second half, resulting in a draw, which is a much better result for us than it is for Ipswich. It looks like we may well be in the Premier League next season. But what if we could get there quicker? You see, the Spurs job is available because somehow they're 18th in the Premier League. So I've applied, and they hired Maurizio Pochettino instead, which I guess is understandable. So what we need to do instead is earn promotion with Brentford. So we signed Malo Gusto on loan from Chelsea to help us do that. I swear loans are completely broken in FM Mobile. However, he didn't actually help. After the Ipswich game, whilst we didn't lose many games, we did draw a lot. And that means we drop into second place, which is fine because it is still promotion, but we need to be careful we don't drop any more points and fall into the playoffs. So we had to make sure we beat 4th place Watford to keep the chasing teams at bay. Lewis Miley almost gave us the lead 10 minutes in, but 10 minutes later, Angelio did give us the lead with a neat effort. We did put the ball in the back of the net again in the second half, but it was an obvious offside. But thankfully we'd done enough and managed to take home all 3 points, keeping promotion on the cards. Especially as we're back on top of the table with a game in hand. After the Watford game though, we didn't play our best football, as we slipped up against Derby County and Stoke City. But at least it wasn't as bad as Ipswich Town, who fall to 4th place, and with 3 games to go, we're 8 points ahead of Bristol City. So if we can beat Luton Town away from home, we're gonna get promoted. So it was superb when 8 minutes into the game, Lewis Miley gave us the lead. But Luton had other ideas when Adebayo scored minutes later. But we can draw the game and still get promoted if Bristol City don't win, which is exactly what is happening right now. Somehow Luton didn't take the lead as the ball pinged around the penalty area, but when they got another chance later on, they didn't miss. It all seems to be going wrong, especially as Bristol City have taken the lead in their game, and whatever we did, we just couldn't equalise, let alone pick up all 3 points. So despite the loss, we're still 5 points clear of 3rd place, and if we win our next game, we also claim the championship title. Cardiff at home seems like a better game for us, and when we won a free kick on the edge of the area, there was only one thing Wiese was doing with it: not scoring. And things got worse when just before half-time, Cardiff took the lead. Luckily though, it was ruled out for offside. So at half-time we're drawing, but so are Sheffield United, which means as things stand right now, we win the title. But the party was getting started 60 minutes in when Wiese finally opened up the scoring for us. We defended well in other situations to keep the lead, before we managed to score again through substitute Damsgaard. And that was enough for us to lift the title with a game to spare and earn promotion to the Premier League. And it's only taken us 10 hours and 18 minutes. And we still need to win the Champions League so I can go to sleep. And I don't think we're going to be doing that with Brentford. The board's minimum expectations this season are mid-table, and it comes with a £52 million budget. So we need to spend well to make sure we finish in the mid-table to hopefully get a better job later this season or next season. So we spend all our money on what I feel are astute signings, whilst also bringing in some quality loan players. Ethan Nwaneri in particular looks to be an incredible player. But will it be enough to win our first Premier League game of the season against Aston Villa? Well, we seem to have the better of the early chances. And just 6 minutes in, John Duran somehow beat all the defenders around him to open up the scoring. And then 20 minutes in, we had a great team effort to score our second of the game, which was fortunate as Villa scored moments later to close the gap. But we do seem to be top heavy with attacking talent, as Ben Doak found a way through and scored our third of the game 30 minutes in, before scoring our fourth literally seconds later. So at half time, we had a very impressive lead, but Villa started to fight back in the second half and scored just before the hour mark. So we had to make sure we restored our 3-goal lead, as Ethan Nwaneri got himself on the score sheet to secure a 5-2 victory. So I think this season we're going to score a lot of goals, but also concede a lot as well. But it seemed to be the conceding that we did more of, as despite beating West Ham 5-1, we also suffered heavy defeats to Sheffield United and Leicester City. But it puts us in a respectable 13th place in the table after 10 games. However, if we want to push for a mid-table position this season, we have to beat the teams below us in the table, which includes Burnley, who we travel to next. And both teams had chances in the first half, but neither side could make a breakthrough. So an hour into the game, we switched up our attack with some fresh legs, which did nothing as Burnley scored instead and won the game 1-0. So it was a bit of a disaster really. And things got worse in January, as Chelsea triggered the £18.75 million release fee clause of Romsas. So we signed Naipan on loan from Spurs to replace him, and spent the money on centre-back Markovic from Partizan Belgrade. Hopefully they will add some strength and depth to the team that is starting to pick up some form as the season goes on, including a very impressive victory over Spurs. And although we're only 11th in the table, the tight nature of the league means we're just 1 point away from the European spot at the halfway point of the season. But how would we fare against second place Chelsea? As you would expect, they were strong in attack, but we did well to stop their attacks and shots. We even troubled their keeper on the odd occasion, but we couldn't hold them forever, especially as Breuer broke the deadlock for Chelsea. Then, thanks to an odd defensive error, Chelsea managed to double their leads. But Naipan wanted to make amends for his mistake and managed to pull a goal back. And then in the 5th minute of 3 minutes added on, we worked the ball into the middle and scored a last gasp equaliser to earn a heroic point. Maybe we could turn this Brentford side into a Champions League winning team. Or we could apply for the Newcastle job that has just become available, even though we are now ahead of them in the table. They're just a bigger club with a higher ceiling, and I really want to go to sleep soon. I'm getting really tired. But obviously, they gave the job to De Zerbi instead. During this period, we had some decent results and moved ourselves up to 10th in the table. But we couldn't really get going at the end of the season, so we ended up in mid-table mediocrity. Exactly what we wanted from this season. But Arsenal, who finished in 4th place, have a job going. So I applied. And this time, we were given the opportunity to take it up. 12 hours and 18 minutes, and we are now finally at a club where actually we could complete this challenge. But winning the Champions League, of course, is another challenge in of itself. We have a lot of top quality players at the team who are right in their prime. Bukayo Saka is one of the best wingers in the world, whilst Jurrien Timber is our rock at the back. And the board are giving me £110 million to add strength and depth to the team. But we only spent £77 million on 2 players. Owen Windle comes in to be our first choice left back, whilst Esteban will play backup to our attackers. But interestingly, we get Ethan Nwaneri back on loan from our old club Brentford, and the coaches think he's the best player in the squad. So let's see how he and the rest of the team get on in our first game of the season against Bournemouth. We were all over the cherries, but we just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. But we were relentless, and eventually Julian Alvarez scored from distance to give us the lead, which gave us the confidence to grab a second, this time through Gabriel Jesus. Ethan Nwaneri tried his luck, but his effort didn't find the back of the net. But that's okay, because we recorded a resounding victory to set us off on the right foot for the season. But could we keep it all going in the North London derby? Well, we were the more lively side out of the blocks, creating more chances, but we just couldn't find the back of the net. So obviously, it was Spurs who scored the first goal of the game just before half time, and at the start of the second half, they then doubled their lead. That was before Gabriel scored one of the worst own goals I have ever seen in any Football Manager game. So overall, it's a less than ideal start to life at Arsenal. But thankfully, our goal isn't to win the Premier League, it's the Champions League. And we get started in that against Bayer Leverkusen. After 13 hours and 7 minutes, we're finally playing our first Champions League game. And I'll be honest, I think we've done it quicker than I was expecting to. But we got a reality check when Leverkusen took the lead 10 minutes into the league phase game. And then just before half time, Ben White gave up a penalty, which Tapsoba went on to score. So far, our debut in the Champions League has been a disaster. But after making a raft of changes early in the second half, we still couldn't score and lost the game 2-0. But we have 7 more games to turn it around, against some arguably easier opposition. Frustratingly though, Atalanta did beat us, but I was really pleased with our wins over Club Brugge, AC Milan and SK Sturm Graz, as well as our terrific Premier League form. It leaves us 4th in the table, trailing surprise leaders Brighton, and 11th in the Champions League league phase. But our next game in the competition is against Chelsea, and we really need to beat our London rivals. 8 minutes in and we almost scored, but the ball rebounded back off the post. Half an hour in, we came close again, but this time putting the ball just wide, and naturally that allowed Chelsea to come forward and take the lead of the game. Things then got even worse as Bukayo Saka got injured, and nothing happened in the second half, which means we lose the game 1-0, which drops us down to 12th in the league phase table, but still with a shot of making the top 8 and going straight through to the round of 16. In January, Man City made a huge bid for backup centre-back Jarrad Branthwaite, which we accepted. And we used the money to buy Fabiano Parisi to play at right back, with his left foot. Yeah, okay, maybe I didn't actually scout him out that well. After a 0-0 draw with Galatasaray, our final Champions League phase game was away at Bayern Munich. Winning here would do our confidence the world of good heading into the knockout stages. But of course, it was Bayern Munich who opened up the scoring. It wasn't for our lack of trying though. We had so many efforts on goal, but just couldn't find the back of the net. But late on, we found a way through, as Brian Brobbery scored what looked like an offside goal, but it counted. So we ended up drawing the game, which is not a bad result in Munich, but it does mean we finish a lowly 17th place and have to go through an extra knockout round. We are unseeded for the draw, which means we could play some very good sides. But perhaps luckily for us, we got given Napoli, much kinder than Real Madrid or PSG, who we could have been matched up against. However, we lost the first leg at home 3-1, meaning we have an uphill battle to turn it around. This was one of Saka's first games back from injury, and 30 minutes in he picked up another injury. But we didn't let that deter us, as Esteban gave us the lead on the night shortly afterwards. And midway through the second half, he scored again to make it 3-3 on aggregate. But Napoli dug deep and managed to put themselves in front again and just win the tie 4-3. So we are out of the Champions League this season, and I still can't go to sleep. We're 14 hours and 28 minutes into this, but I'm only counting the amount of time I'm actually playing the game. I have been taking breaks for food, to move around a little bit, and for my own sanity. So it's actually been 16 hours since we started this, and I'm really feeling it now. So we need to make sure we now finish in the top 4 this season to make the Champions League again next season. But as we're only 5th right now, we do need to pick things up a bit. Except that is exactly what we didn't do. We fell into some horrendous form and it looked like our season could be over. But miraculously, we stayed in 5th place, just 2 points behind Brighton, who we play next. 4 minutes in, we had a great chance, but just couldn't finish off the move. Luckily, 30 minutes in though, Kai Havertz could finish from distance to give us the lead. And then moments later, we were given a penalty, which Julian Alvarez slotted home. We pushed for a third in the second half, but it just wasn't happening until Julian Alvarez scored an incredible free kick to secure all 3 points and move ourselves back into 4th place with 3 games to go. But would a win, a draw, and a loss be good enough? Just. We pit Brighton to 4th place by a single point to make the Champions League next season. But this season did not go to plan. I feel like we have really underperformed. Luckily for us though, the board are backing us with £139 million to spend. And we spent £134 million on 3 new first team players to improve the spine of the squad. First up, we take on our former club Brentford, who let us score 75 seconds into the game. Before we could even get to 5 minutes on the clock, it was 2-0 to the Gunners. And then Julian Alvarez added a 3rd goal 20 minutes into the game to wrap up the victory. This season is starting much better than last season ended. We carried on winning, including a big win over Manchester United, before we get stuck into a much easier Champions League phase. But it's easy on paper. We do actually need to win these games. So when we scored within 2 minutes against Besiktas, a lot of pressure was lifted off our shoulders. New boy Pacho then made it 2-0 not long after to really put us in control. And finally, Gyökeres managed to score his first goal for the club after initially struggling to fit into the tactic. In the 25th minute, Saka made it 4-0 before Gyökeres made it 5 at the start of the second half, before finishing off his hat-trick to make it 6-0 on the night. Based on what I've seen so far, this could be our season. But was it just a fluke? When we played Cypriot side Omanoia, it took until the 30th minute for us to take the lead. And an hour into the game, we only just managed to double our lead. So not as convincing, but we are on the right path. However, a draw with Monaco and a loss to Real Madrid made me less confident. But we are 5th in the league phase and we want to finish in the top 8, so we are still on track. Luckily, we managed to beat Maccabi Haifa, and along with some decent form in January, we drew with Bayern Munich and beat PSG away from home, leaving us 3rd in the league phase table, meaning we get a bye into the round of 16. We also seem to be in a Premier League title fight, but Man City do have 2 games in hand on us. Luckily, we do have some easy games coming up, including against Birmingham City. 15 minutes in and Ethan Nwaneri scored his 4th of the season to get us up and running. But somehow we didn't add a second just before half time on 2 separate occasions. And on the hour mark, we still couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. But finally, we did manage to score a second goal, before substitute Gabriel Jesus scored a 3rd in the 90th minute. So we can create a lot of chances, we're just not that good at putting them all in the back of the net yet. The draw for the Champions League was looking pretty nice for us, as we avoided the bigger teams, giving us a chance of getting Rangers. But instead, we've been drawn against Borussia Dortmund. We've been in good form recently, so I'm hoping it's going to continue. The first leg is in Dortmund, and we managed to take the lead within 10 minutes. Then, thanks to some good defensive work, we managed to prevent Dortmund from getting on level terms with us for the rest of the game as they created more chances. But to rub salt into the wounds, we were then given a late penalty which we scored to make it 2-0. So we just need to see out the second leg to make sure we progress. Which started well as Saka opened up the scoring. And 5 minutes later, we doubled it to make it 4-0 on aggregate. But Dortmund did manage to pull one back, which hopefully wasn't the start of a monumental comeback. They did make it a comeback on the night though, as they scored a second with 5 minutes to go, but Havertz made it 3 for us on the night and we qualified for the quarterfinals, where we've been given a dream draw, avoiding all the big teams and getting matched up with Rangers. Sorry Rangers fans, it's just that Real Madrid are a bit more scary than you are. But of course they are here on merit, so we have to make sure we don't underestimate them. But I was feeling pretty smug when we scored within 2 minutes, only for the goal to then be disallowed. But 2 minutes later, we did legitimately take the lead of the game and then double our lead around the 15-minute mark. The third goal of the night was then scored in the 20th minute. But Rangers did manage to score just before half-time to remind us that they were still there. But it was all that they could do. We won the first leg 3-1. And a 4-0 win at Ibrox ensured we made it to the semi-finals. And we'd also been on a hot streak in the league. But right now, Man City are just too good for us as they sit 4 points ahead with a game in hand. And of course, our focus is on the Champions League, not the Premier League, where we've been drawn against Barcelona in the semis. Just like the Rangers game, we scored early on, but it was disallowed for offside. But we didn't let that stop us from scoring less than 10 minutes into the game. We were also solid at the back as Kobel made a huge save to keep us in front at half time. And then at the start of the second half, we made it 2-0 to double the advantage. And that ignited something inside of Gyökeres, who then scored another moments later. But this Barcelona side is good, as Lamine Yamal did manage to pull one back for the Catalans. But we still won 3-1 in Barcelona. So after 18 hours, we are 90 in-game minutes away from potentially reaching the Champions League final. We need this. Oh, I'm so tired now. And 13 minutes in, we opened up the scoring to give us a 4-1 aggregate lead. Surely we are not going to bottle it from here. Well, less than 10 minutes later, Barcelona scored. But it's okay, we are still 2 goals to the goods. And luckily for us, Lamine Yamal didn't have his shooting boots on, so we keep our lead for the second half. But Barcelona kept pushing and pulled back another goal through Alejandro Balde. And now it was our turn to have shots and not be able to score goals. As the clock ticked on, the more nervous I was getting and the closer Barcelona were coming. But just as I thought we'd done enough, Barcelona scored in the 93rd minute to make it 4-4 on aggregates. So we're going to extra time instead, where we looked like the better of the 2 sides, but we just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. So instead, we are going to penalties. And I swear if we lose it at this stage, I actually might cry, I'm so tired. Owen Windle stepped up first for us and scored, but so did Barcelona. We then made it 2-1, but Isaac got Barcelona back on level terms. Odegaard kept things going for us, but of course so did Alejandro Balde. Declan Rice then piled the pressure as he scored onto Ansu Fati's shoulders, who put his effort over the bar. And that allowed Martinelli to score to win us the game and send us to the final. Although I think the term giant killing is a little bit too much in this situation. We're going to be taking on Man City in the final, who are the reigning champions and now quite comfortably ahead of us in the Premier League. Although we did play them on the final day of the season and won 3-2. So is this a good omen of things to come? Well, Man City are still the favourites for the Champions League, and they almost scored early on. But we had a miracle. Somehow, Shatar's free kick went through absolutely everyone and found itself in the back of the net, giving us the lead. And not long after that, Bukayo Saka was able to double it for us, putting us 2-0 up at half-time. And we seemed to do a very good job of shutting down the game in the second half, not giving Man City a good opportunity at all. So when it came down to the 90th minute, it was all about tactical fouls and time wasting to see the clock down and win the game, winning the Champions League and completing the challenge. And it only took me 18 hours and 27 minutes. Now I am going to go and get some sleep. But in the meantime, you can watch this video on screen where I made Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland football managers and put them up against each other to see who would win the most trophies. Hopefully Haaland can do better than he did in that Champions League final that we just beat him in.